Say hello to my little news dump, where everything the light touches is a remake or an adaptation. But the cake is not always a lie. We're talking about a new Scarface, a live-action Lion King, and some long-awaited news about JJ Abrams' Portal movie. So let's start with Scarface, which most people know as that Al Pacino movie that they've seen posters of in the dorm rooms of college males. That 1983 Brian De Palma film about a Cuban immigrant's cocaine-fueled rise and fall in the Miami organized crime world was actually itself a remake of a movie from 1932, loosely based on real-life gangster Al Capone, about an Italian immigrant's similar rise and fall. But most people just remember the Al Pacino version. Anyway, Universal's been saying for the last couple years that they're planning on remaking Scarface at some point, and back in August, it was announced that Antoine Fuqua, who most recently directed Magnificent Seven, had signed on to direct, with the new script being set in modern-day Los Angeles and focusing on a Mexican immigrant. And now Variety is reporting that Terrence Winter, who knows a thing or two about gangsters from his time working for The Sopranos and Boardwalk Empire, has signed on to write the latest draft of the script. It was only a week ago that I was reporting on Terrence Winter signing on to write that Andy Warhol biopic, so the guy's definitely keeping busy. Good for him. Anyway, since the original Scarface featured a Ukrainian Jew playing an Italian immigrant, and the 1983 Scarface featured an Italian American playing a Cuban immigrant, I'm really excited to see which Cuban American actor they find to play this movie's Mexican immigrant. Moving on to The Lion King, it shouldn't surprise anyone that Disney is planning a live-action and CGI remake of the 1994 animated classic, since they've been doing that with pretty much every one of their classic animated properties for the last few years, with The Jungle Book being the most recent example. And I guess Disney is so happy with the nearly $1 billion they made off that movie that they've hired The Jungle Book's director, Jon Favreau, to come back and do the same thing to The Lion King, which is already one of the highest-earning movies of all time. And they're saying that, like The Jungle Book and the upcoming Beauty and the Beast, the new Lion King will feature songs from the original, like Hakuna Matata, which means no worries for the rest of your days. It could be pretty great, I don't know. I do think it's kind of funny that this is being described as a live-action movie, even though it sounds like it'll pretty much be 100% CG animation. I mean, for The Jungle Book and the Beauty and the Beast movie, you could argue that it's live action because there's actual human actors in there, but The Lion King is entirely animal characters, so I doubt anything aside from maybe some backgrounds are gonna be live action. It's all gonna be digital creatures. Another thing though, the original Lion King featured a lot of voices done by well-known celebrities who are still very much alive today, so it'll be interesting to see how they choose to cast this. I mean, it'd be really weird hearing a Mufasa who isn't James Earl Jones when they could have just as easily gotten James Earl Jones back in the booth for a couple days. And the same goes for Jeremy Irons as Scar, Nathan Lane as Timon, Rowan Atkinson as Zazu, and Whoopi Goldberg and Cheech Marin as the hyenas. Moving on, it's been almost 4 years since Gabe Newell and JJ Abrams announced on stage at DICE 2013 that they were in talks to potentially collaborate on movie versions of the Half-Life and Portal franchises. At the time, fans of those franchises were understandably fucking stoked about it, but since then it's felt more and more like something that's just not actually gonna happen, like the Uncharted movie that's been in various stages of development hell for the last 8 years, and I guarantee you will never be made. Thankfully though, the folks at IGN decided to ask JJ Abrams about it on the red carpet for the Westworld premiere, and much to my surprise, he's not only saying that the project is still in development, but that an official announcement for Portal is coming sometime soon. He also just seemed really excited to have a chance to talk about it, which is cool. When asked about the status of the two projects, Abrams said, "They're very much still in development. We actually have a meeting coming up next week with Valve. We're very active, and I'm hoping there can be a Portal announcement fairly soon." And when asked how closely the stories would follow their source material, Abrams replied, "We're having, I think, some really interesting discussions with writers, many of whom are crazy obsessed. Once you said you're doing a movie or show about a specific thing that is a known quantity, it's an amazing thing how you start to find people who are rabid about some of these things. And as someone who loved playing Half-Life, loved playing Portal, what's the movie of this?" It's actually incredible when you talk to someone who just kind of gets it, is a great storyteller, you kind of go, oh my god, it really is a seed for this incredible tree that they're growing. So I look forward to being able to talk about it and sort of announce who's working on it. Well, color me excited. One clear candidate for involvement in a Portal movie in particular has always been Dan Trachtenberg, who made his feature directorial debut with 10 Cloverfield Lane, which was produced by JJ Abrams. But before that, he really caught his big break back in 2011 with a short film based on Portal called Portal: No Escape, which did a pretty damn good job translating Portal to live action. Now, Half-Life has a lot more story material to draw on for a film, But Portal is a much bigger challenge, I think, because it's mostly a puzzle game with a pretty basic plot framing the whole thing. There is, however, a ton of room to play around with Aperture Labs' backstory and its various experiments, and I will be personally devastated if they can't get J.K. Simmons on board to reprise his role as Cave Johnson, Aperture's founder and CEO, and also Stephen Merchant as the voice of Wheatley, the personality core. I'm sure they can clear their schedules. Let's move on to trailers though, starting with a real doozy that requires a bit of backstory. So the YouTube channel FND Films has been making sketch comedy videos for 10 years, basically since YouTube has existed. And back in 2014, they decided to make their first feature-length film, creating a crowdfunding page on Indiegogo so they could raise the $75,000 that they would need to make their movie a reality. And the campaign was a success, despite revealing pretty much nothing about the plot except that it was an action comedy. So for the last 2 years since then, though, they haven't really posted any updates on their project to Indiegogo or their website or their YouTube page. That is until September 13th, when they posted the video, "It's All Good, Movie Update," and revealed that due to complications and things beyond our control, the movie was just not going to happen anymore. They apologized and they asked their fans to please stick with them, but reaction on the internet was swift and fierce, with many assuming, based on the filmmakers' social media posts, that they'd just blown all the money on themselves. Which happens all the time with crowdfunding, and it sucks. So fans and backers, they felt utterly betrayed by a channel that they'd been fans of for years. It was terrible. Well, turns out it was just a prank, bro, and actually a pretty damn brilliant one. The movie is still happening, and they've released a trailer for it now, which reveals that the movie is about the 3 FND filmmakers as themselves who raised $77,000 on Indiegogo, like they did, and they promptly become greedy and blow all the money, sending themselves down an action comedy rabbit hole where they're being hunted by an onslaught of angry donors who want their damn money back. It's meta as hell, and I love everything about it. So this comes out on October 21st, and it'll be available via their website, itsallgoodfilm.com, probably iTunes and Google Play as well. I am excited. Moving on to more serious topics though, here's a new trailer for Desierto. It's the upcoming movie from Jonas Cuarón, the son of Gravity and Children of Men director Alfonso Cuarón, and this looks real intense. It stars Gael Garcia Bernal as a man in a group of people legally crossing the border from Mexico into the US through the desert of the Southwest. Just kind of looking for migrant labor and whatnot, and it also stars Jeffrey Dean Morgan, aka the guy from The Walking Dead with the baseball bat, as a ruthless gun-toting vigilante who's obsessed with protecting the US border by any means necessary. So it essentially looks like a simple horror movie framed by some larger social commentary issues, and because of that, it's definitely dividing critics, with some saying that the social commentary is too heavy-handed, and then others saying that it's not explored deeply enough. The more positive reviews definitely have me interested though, so I think I'll check it out. Desierto comes out in theaters on October 14th. Moving on to documentaries, Netflix has released a trailer for Ava DuVernay's upcoming documentary, The 13th, which is named after the 13th Amendment, which banned slavery. The documentary explores the various ways that the US government has disproportionately prosecuted and incarcerated minorities in the 150 years since then, focusing particularly on the prison industrial complex that we now have in the United States, where keeping criminals locked up has become a lucrative business, and also the increased militarization of local police departments over the last 2 decades. The 13th comes out on Netflix on October 7th. It looks real good, and I'm sure it will lead to plenty of polite conversations like the ones in the YouTube comments section for the trailer itself. Everyone's just getting along great. It's amazing. They're not. Then there's a trailer for another very interesting looking documentary called Tower, which is about the incident in 1966 when Charles Whitman murdered his wife and mother and then went to the clock tower of the University of Texas and opened fire with a sniper rifle, killing 14 and injuring another 32. It was one of the first and most notable instances of a mass shooting at a school, and it's told here using footage from during the siege, interviews from immediately following it, and present-day interviews that are mixed in with animated scenes giving a clear picture of the day's terrifying events. And it's done in a pretty cool rotoscope style similar to A Scanner Darkly. Tower is currently making the rounds at various festivals and local screenings, and it's receiving overwhelmingly positive reviews. It has no firm release date yet, but if you check their website, it's coming to various towns across the country, and it'll hopefully be available digitally by the end of the year. And finally, one more thing before I go. Dutch animator Patrick Schoenmaker has finally revealed his labor of love animated Indiana Jones short titled The Adventures of Indiana Jones after 5 years of working on it in his free time. And it's definitely worth checking out if you've ever wondered what an Indiana Jones animated kids show would look like. Because the answer is, it looks awesome. Just super awesome. Showmaker's 1-minute video was designed to be sort of like the opening introduction sequence to a non-existent Indiana Jones animated show. And after seeing this, I'm sort of baffled that there has never been an Indiana Jones animated show, especially since the 80s and 90s had Saturday morning cartoon versions of pretty much every cool film property ever, and a lot of not cool film properties too. And especially after the success of the Star Wars animated television properties, it would definitely not be a stretch for Disney to make something like this a reality. So, please? Anyway, that's it. Please check out my other videos from this week if you haven't already. On Tech Tuesday, I told you all about how Elon Musk is dead serious and dead set about getting humans to go and colonize Mars as soon as possible for some reason. And earlier in the week, I looked at the whole bizarre story of Oculus VR founder Palmer Luckey being the secret benefactor of a meme-based pro-Donald Trump organization. It's a wild ride. And, oh yeah, if you're looking for scary movie recommendations now that we're in spooky October, the spookiest month of the year, look no further than last week's podcast where we had Clark Wolf join us to talk about all of our favorite horror movies. Anyway, guys, have a great weekend, and tune in for tomorrow's podcast. I had Chloe and Phil on and talked about ghosts and other fun stuff. See ya.